Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be, is she bored, disinterested, or simply turned off? Well, I got 4 emails I'm going to go through with you today. The first one is from a guy who's been in a long-term relationship, and his girlfriend had said some startling things to him. The other 3 are from guys that are either dating or involved with other women or trying to meet certain women, and they're trying to figure out where they actually stand. So we've got a good range of scenarios we're going to go through with you today. But I got a quote I want to share with you on this topic, and it says, complacency in relationships is not an overnight thing. Complacency comes when one or both people in a relationship get bored, distracted with other priorities, or simply take each other for granted. It's a slow process which is similar to the frog and boiling pot of water analogy. If you drop a frog in a pot of boiling water, it will jump right out. If you put a frog in a pot of warm water and slowly turn up the heat, it will slowly boil to death. When you are dating and not attached, both people tend to be on their best behavior and are paying attention to meeting each other's needs. Determining sexual attraction or lack thereof is pretty easy when you know what to look for. However, in long-term relationships, one or both people will slowly stop putting their best foot forward. It's easier to spot problems in casual dating, but much harder once 2 people have been together for many years. It takes continuous, consistent effort to maintain long-term relationships. So let's go ahead and jump into the first guy's email. He says, "Hey Coach, I've read your book and I'm working on applying the principles in it. Thank you for taking the time to put together your videos and book as they provide helpful tips and guidance. I'm writing because I'm having a difficult time creating mystery and sexual tension between my girlfriend and me because we live together. When we met, we obviously did not live together, and she viewed me as someone who always has something fun going on, and she wanted to be a part of that fun. You should always be that guy." One of the things I got to say before I really get too far into this guy's email, this is what happens. You're living together, you see each other every single day, and you're like, I don't really feel like getting all dressed up to go out to dinner. Let's just get some pizza and maybe a bottle of wine and veg out and watch some TV. And that happens once, and then twice, and then 3 times, and then several months go by, and that's pretty much all you're doing. You're just sitting around the house, not really doing anything exciting. I got an email from a coaching client of mine. I've been coaching him for probably close to 4 years. And when he first met me, his problem wasn't so much meeting women, but how to get girls that he really wanted to actually become his girlfriend. He's been with this girl now, I think, for about 3 years. And he sent me a picture of him and her at the beach. They've been obviously traveling during the holidays and having a kick-ass time together. And they both are very successful and they're very well off. And the thing that he always makes a point of is because obviously he had me coaching him, is that he's always doing fun things like that. He's always planning trips and going other places. Now, obviously not everybody's going to be able to afford to go out of town and go to a beach and do those kinds of things, but you got to make the effort. So what he typically does, he'll buy tickets and he'll plan things when he knows that she can get time away from work. And he'll say, basically, pack your bags, we're leaving on such date. And she's like, where are you taking me? He's like, it's none of your business. You're going to find out when we get there. And so all she has to do is pack her bags and show up and look hot. And he takes care of everything. He knows where the restaurants are that he's going to go to. He knows the sites that they're going to go see, the tourist destinations, all those kinds of things. And so he always has something fun and interesting for the 2 of them to do. He makes a consistent effort. He works out. He takes care of himself. And he makes sure that he continuously courts her because they're living together now. And they've been living together, I think, a little over a year and a half. They've been living together at this point. And they dated for several years, and she actually lived in another country, even though they worked for the same company. And so there was a lot of back and forth, and just slowly over time, they started spending more and more countries. She transferred into the city where he works at, and then they ended up moving in together, and they've been living together for a year. And they're both in great, like I said, they're in great shape. They take care of themselves, and he makes the effort. He's the leader in the relationship. He's always doing fun and interesting things. Now, obviously, if you don't have the money to fly around the country or fly around the world and do fun things, that's understandable. Not everybody can afford to do those things. But there are places that you can go in your city I mean, it's like you drive up and down any street, and there are thousands of restaurants all over the city. If you wanted to eat at a different restaurant every day, you wouldn't be able to eat at all because there's so many of them out there. There's so many different. Like I live in Orlando, there's tons of tourist things you can do. St. Augustine is an hour away. Tampa is an hour and a half away, or I say St. Augustine's about an hour and a half as well. But there's all. I mean, you can make a day out of that. You can hop in the car and you can drive somewhere an hour and a half, 2 hours away. Do some tourist type things that don't really cost much. You go to parks, you can go to historic sites. There's a fort that's been around for 500, 600, 700 years up in St. Augustine. You can see there's just cool shit like that. Where no matter where you live, there's something within driving distance. So if you don't have a lot of money, you just hop in the car, you got to pay for gas, maybe some tolls, and then your admission to go to one of these cool things. There's like a Ripley's Believe It or Not up there in St. Augustine. There's tons of bread and breakfasts. And every girlfriend that I've had over the last 15, 18 years, I've taken every single one of them up there because it's a great place to go. And even though I've been there several times, there's lots of things to do there. And I usually end up going there once or twice a year with my girlfriends because there's so many things that you can do there. And like I said, no matter where you live, you can go do interesting things. But like I said, this is what typically happens. You start dating and it's like, oh, it's kind of cold out, or oh, the weather's kind of shitty. Let's just stay in. Let's get a movie. And then it just becomes the same dull, boring routine. I remember I had a girlfriend probably about 10, 12 years ago. I remember we were standing, this is like right after we had finished making love, and she's like, she could tell I was doing the same shit. I was busy as hell with my business, and when we first year or so that we were dating, I went out of my way to do those fun things. But after we were together for a while, it's like like I said, it's like the frog in the pot of boiling water. It happens slowly. It starts out, well, okay, let's not go out. Let's just stay in this weekend. And then, as several months goes by, that's pretty much all you're doing. And so you've got to pay attention to those things. Those are absolutely essential to do those things. Otherwise, your girl is going to fall out of love with you. And you don't want your relationship to end just because you weren't doing the right things. You stopped courting her properly, which is when I talk to guys that are in marriages or long-term relationships, that's the number one cause, is they just get complacent and they stop courting her. They start taking her for granted, and then one or both people stop putting their best foot forward, and then it spirals out of control. Now, you're still going to have relationships that are going to end because maybe you've been together for a couple of years and her goals and values are kind of different from yours, or maybe they're evolving a little bit, or you just realize that you don't want to be together. I mean, that's beside the point, but that's the biggest thing that I see in a relationship is getting lazy, getting complacent. And like I said, it's not something that happens over one weekend. It's something that happens over several months and often many years, especially you got kids involved. Because it's like you got young kids, always got to count for them. You can't just lock the door in your house and take off and run away for the weekend. You gotta, if you're gonna leave your kids with somebody or parents or someone like that, and like little kids always want, they all, a lot of times are like, well, why don't you want me to come? It's like, well, what? They take that stuff personally, and so that tugs at your heartstrings. When you got little ones that want to come with you and spend the weekend, but you and your girl want to get away and have some fun, it's not always easy to do that. But as the man in the relationship, you got to be the leader. You have to do these things. So he continues on, now that we're living together, it is not possible to wait a couple days to text or talk between dates, and she sees all parts of me when I am spending time doing things other than socializing or working. Lately, she's been saying I am not as vibrant as when we met, and she's worried that we may have different interests, and maybe she would be happier if she moved into her own place and had more free time to be autonomous. So in other words, what she's communicating is our relationship is becoming stagnant, dull, and boring. I know what to expect. And one of the reasons why a woman in a relationship will throw that out there is because she wants to see what you think about it. She's testing your strength. She wants to see if that bothers you. The thought of her moving out and moving further away from you instead of being closer together is going to bother you. This is one of the ways that women test you, because obviously she's not happy. That's why she's bringing it up. And there should be major alarm bells going off in your head saying, holy shit, red alert, I need to get serious about dating and courting her and do some, like I was talking about, you need to get back to courting her because it's obvious you're not putting the same level of effort into the courtship that you were when you first got together. Because it's easy, you live together, It's like you don't have to call her to get together. It's like you just literally roll over with a boner in the morning and poke her in the butt with it. Hey, baby. And you're ready to go. It's pretty easy, but you start to take that shit for granted. You got to find time to do fun things together, whether it's making dinner together or making dinner for her or getting candles, putting them in the bedroom with rose petals, and so she comes home. And even though you're not going anywhere, you do something fun and romantic together. Maybe you give her a 45-minute massage. You both get naked, you oil her up, and you give her a nice long massage, and after the massage, you have sex. And maybe she gives you a massage afterwards. And then you pour a bath after, you just totally pamper her like that. Those are different things you can do. But like I said, it's like you keep doing this, and eventually she's going to leave, because what she's basically saying is, I don't feel your presence anymore. I don't feel your strength. I don't feel you filling me up in every way, shape, or form. It's like you're somewhere else. And just what was key, what she said was that, she says, I'm not as vibrant as when we first met. And this is another thing I talk about all the time in videos, is if you're single and you want a girlfriend but you're not happy right now in your own life, this is what happens. When you realize that after the infatuation wears off and you're with your girl and you realize that she's not going to make you happy long term, and then you get back to after 6 months, a year, when that infatuation period wears off and you realize the fact that you're just not a happy dude, this is where it starts to manifest itself and starts to cause problems in your relationships. Because you realize that no matter how great things are with your girl, you're still not happy. And when you're not happy, you're not going to put your best foot forward. And this is what happens here. And this is how women let you know that, hey, you need to get your shit together. You need to take care of things. You need to focus on me. You need to date and court me properly. That's what she's trying to communicate to you. It's become boring and predictable. He says, the fact is, I know our interests and values align very well. Before we lived together, she only saw me for romance and fun. The whole purpose is hanging out, having fun, and hooking up. And you stopped being the entertainment director and just took for granted that, hey, she lives with me, she ain't going anywhere. Well, what she's trying to say now is the guy she fell in love with, you're not that same dude anymore. You're kind of boring her. He says, now since she sees me all the time, the bulk of our time is spent just living and functioning with a couple or a few dates per week. Are you doing this? Is like what people typically do. They go to the same restaurant every Friday night. Or they go to the same bar every weekend. It's the same boring, dull routine. It's like when you're really trying to date and court a girl, you want to go and do fun things, places that you haven't been and places that she hasn't been. And the bottom line is what she's communicating, what you share with what she said, that tells me she's getting bored with the relationship. He says, I can tell I'm over pursuing her and have been for a while, but I'm not sure how to back off since living together means I am not at work or with friends and I'm always available to her. Well, another thing that guys tend to do is they just kind of blow off all their friends and all of their interests and all their hobbies. They stop going to the gym. They start gaining weight. They stop taking care of themselves. They don't shower as much. They don't bathe as much. They don't get dressed up as much. Those are all little things that it's like I said, it's like the frog in the pot of boiling water. You're slowly boiling to death in your relationship. Her interest in me seems to be about a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. And she says she loves me and she wants to be with me and does not want to date anyone else and stays with me because she feels safe and secure in my company. When I asked if I court her properly, she said yes. When I asked her if I listen to her, she says yes. When I asked her if she feels I understand her and her needs, she said yes, the majority of the time. And when she says the majority of the time, well, what do you mean by that, honey? Tell me more. Don't leave anything out. Really? Wow. What else? You gotta get her talking. She'll tell you exactly what's going on. But like I said, you gotta learn to read between the lines because you gotta understand that women are also, they're gonna test your strength. They want to know that you're gonna do these things regardless. And so partly maybe you're not as happy as you once were when you were dating her, because when you were dating her, you were looking to her as the source of your happiness. She'll contribute to it, but if you're not already happy, like I said, that I was talking about earlier in the video, that's a really important key factor. Leads to a breakup of a lot of relationships once the infatuation wears off, because then the guy realizes, wow, as awesome, as hot, and beautiful, and sexy, as fun embedded in this girl is, I'm not happy. And the happiness comes from inside you. That's not something that comes from externally, whether her or material objects. You have to be at a place in your life where you make you happy, where you're happy and you love your life being totally single, and you want a great person that's at the same place in their life to share their completeness with you. Because at the same time, she also said that she's not ready to think about getting engaged, and she hopes I don't ask. So whereas her attraction level is definitely not in the 9 or 10 range. Naturally, I would like to create the room for her to start pursuing me 80% of the time, and for her desire to be with me to go up. How do I do this when we live together and I'm always available to her outside of work? Well, stop calling her. If you're going to see her every night, don't call her during the day. Don't text her during the day. Don't do any of that stuff. Let her wonder about you. Let her reach out to you. That's me. You said so yourself that you're over pursuing her. So in essence, you're starting to act like a woman. So you got a lot of little, I point out a bunch of things that you're doing wrong here. And if you just focus on those things, get back to the man, let her do it. Because if you live with her every day, first thing you walk in the door is you walk over, kiss her on the lips. Hey, baby, how was your day? If you got really bad breath, maybe you should go brush your teeth and do a little water pick in her dental floss and to get some of the food out, or the hamburger out of your teeth that you had for lunch or whatever. But go right up to her and kiss her and say, hey, babe, how was your day? Tell me more. What else? Wow, really? Oh. Let her talk. So let's get in the second email. This guy says, hey, coach, I want to provide you an update after the video where you answered my last email titled, Stand Your Ground or Get Jerked Around. You brought up many good points, and I know I'm a great catch, and she did lose out on a wonderful guy, and I know I'm a lot of fun to be around. She treated me like I was a statue, and I agree. Why put up with someone who would treat you this way? Corey, I'm not sure if you understand, but as stupid as it sounds in terms of compatibility, I still feel we're right for each other. Not now, but later on down the road. Well, this guy had written to me before about his ex-girlfriend who ditched him. And this is what a lot of guys, that statement there tells me that you haven't accepted the fact that you got dumped. You can't do anything about it. You can't over pursue, you can't over chase this woman into wanting you back. You got to walk and never look back. Because if you're attached to what was, you're going to suffer. It's going to prevent you from moving on to finding somebody new. She's immature, and I just recently found out she unfriended my friends on Facebook. What turned her off the most was me texting her over the 2 months to convince her to try to get back together with me. I just wish that someday down the road she'll realize how much of a stupid fool she is. She might not. I feel like I've lost the upper hand, and what I mean by that is her dictating terms of the relationship. I know that I've become a changed man since we split up, and I want her to see that and regret breaking up with me. How, in your experience, do you regain that control/power? Like I said, you got to assume that that relationship is done forever, and you may never, ever hear from her again. And all that is just approval type seeking behavior. In other words, you want to basically prove to her, hey, I've changed, I'm a different guy, and you should want me back. The best thing you do is move on with your life. Start dating, get out there and meet somebody new. Be open to it. Work on yourself, work on your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, the things that you really want to do. Become a great catch. Don't be the guy that's crying in his beers over the girl that dumped him months ago and has long since moved on with her life. He says, I know you're right about the whole stalking issue, and I wasn't like this before. I want to know how to turn this off in my mind. Get some new options. It's creeping me out because I never used to check my ex's Facebook and her pictures. I know if I do it continually, it hurts my mind. Well, stop doing it. Just say, you know what, I'm not going to look at it anymore. She's obviously, if she's blocked you and your friends, it's like she's moved on, dude. It's time for you to move on yourself. Since my last email, I practiced my social skills, or worked on my social skills, and observed people interacting on first dates. And guys have absolutely no fucking idea. You can tell that in a lot of instances that the guys are doing 80% of the communicating. The girl just sits there and listens. She sometimes laughs and sometimes she doesn't. Yesterday I was at a dance club and I saw the perfect example of someone being playful. He just met this girl and they talked and ended up dancing on the dance floor, and it wasn't the usual grinding that you would see in dance clubs. He moved with her and swayed with her, and they ended up even chasing each other, making out on the couch. I was in a non-pickup mentality at the time because my purpose that night was just trying to have fun. I've been trying to work on myself most of the time and just being able to enjoy my time alone and not have to worry about women. That is key. Just like the guy that I was talking about previously, is that if you're not happy right now being single, you're not going to be happy in a relationship. So you got to get to the place where you love being by yourself. You love hanging out by yourself. And you don't feel like you're missing out on life or missing out by not having a woman in your life. Because once you get a woman, if you're feeling that when you meet a woman, you're going to be happy for a while. And then just like the other guy, you're going to kind of get complacent and realize that your girlfriend is not the actual source of your happiness. You have to be the source of your happiness. So you need to do the work on yourself and do the work on your own life to get yourself back to that place. He says, I've asked a few women out, and like you said, I've been interacting with women more in person than the online bullshit. It's just like you said, you can tell from a person's eye contact and body language if they're into you or not. Exactly, I talk about this extensively in my book. Since I've been broken up, I'm meeting one girl who seems to be head over heels in love with me, but I'm not very interested in her. And with other women, I'm just starting to set dates, but it's taking a lot of time. And some I've gotten their phone numbers and they never responded, and some they've just canceled at the last minute. Well, when they cancel like that, it tells you that they're not interested. Like I said, just because you get a phone number doesn't mean she wants to go out with you. Like you said, it seems to be a numbers game, but I still find it frustrating in my mind because I know I have a lot to offer. Oh, by the way, on New Year's Eve, even though I didn't get a New Year's kiss at 12, I got a pre-New Year's kiss from an 18-year-old girl, and a post-New Year's kiss from another one who's 22, and I'm 30. Good job, bro. He says, I didn't get laid that night, unfortunately. Instead of taking the girl to my bedroom, I took her to my living room. That's what practice is all about. Repetition is the mother of skill. When you go through this process enough times, you know when to make the move. But I detail it enough in my book, and the best thing that you can do is be making dates and going out on dates, hanging out and having fun, and hooking up. It's that simple. He says, Coach, I know I'm moving on in my life, and my ex has certainly blocked me out of hers, and I still want her back, and I know what I have to do to walk away. I get this feeling inside me where I either want her to meet douchebags or other guys that have no fucking clue what they're doing. Well, when you figure that 97% of guys out there don't know what they're doing, that's why silence is the best thing, and not pursuing just moving out of your life is because she's going to encounter a lot of those guys, and then she's going to start to possibly, she start to second guess herself and think, no, I haven't heard from my ex-boyfriend. I wonder what he's doing. And she'll reach out to you. But you can't, she might not. You might never hear from her again. But that's the only thing that's going to have a powerful effect on her, is she starts to second guess her decision to ditch you. And when she realizes that 97% of the dudes that she's going to encounter are total fucking schmucks and they don't know what they're doing. He says, I want to feel some satisfaction that she missed out on a great catch, and I feel like I'm having a hard time accepting the present situation, but maybe this is a lesson for me to improve myself, so if she does come back, she can see the new me. Exactly. I say that all the time. That's part of doing the work that you know you need to do. So you can be ready and you can be prepared, and if you got 3 or 4 other women that you're dating and you've got options, you're not going to be so eager to get back together with her versus like having nothing else going on in your personal life. It'll really help you do the right thing. He says, it's odd, but I still feel that one day she'll come back to me, maybe if it's 10 years apart. On the bright side, well, I wouldn't count on it. On the bright side, I'm starting to lose all my fears to the point where I can say to a girl, she's absolutely gorgeous, and ask her out. I've done it a few times, but the numbers game really gets me down sometimes. Well, like I said, you can't let it diminish you. Repetition's the mother of skill. So let's get on to the third guy's email. He says, hey, Coach, I'm gradually getting into your videos, and I'm about to begin reading your ebook. What are you waiting on, dude? I think what you're teaching is marvelous stuff, and as we Aussies say, good on you, mate. I'm 43, and I've been single for 4 years, and over that time, I've had a number of dates, some good, some leading to hooking up, but all in all, not overly successful, and I'm still getting my head around what women want. Well, if you read the book, you'll actually realize that. A lot of light bulbs will go off in your head. Your video newsletters are helping, I think, and I really want to get in your book fast. Well, quit talking about it and fucking do it. I have a question about a date I went on yesterday. The date itself, I think, went fine, and I think her interest was definitely above a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, as she did most of the talking. Well, that's good. But I noticed that it was almost all about her, and I was asking questions and did some talking along the way. However, I had very few questions coming my way. It's good that you're paying attention to that, because women who are interested in you are going to ask you questions. I had one of my old girlfriends I talked to recently, and she was asking me all kinds of questions about my business, what I'm doing, where I come up with ideas for my videos, for my quotes, all kinds of things. Like I said, she'll always be interested in me and love me in that particular way, and it's nice. But you got to pay attention to those things. You want to make sure that you're with somebody who's reciprocating interest, because the typical nice guy behavior is to look at the fact, hey, I really like this girl, but ignore the fact that she doesn't ask you any questions about yourself. He says the date, which was the first, ended after a couple hours where she mentioned, after I asked her if she wanted to grab a bite to eat following our drinks together, that she was meeting up with friends shortly and had to go. That's not a good sign, because if she was having a really great time, she would say, you know what, I'm going to call my friends and cancel on them. I'm having a really good time with you. I walked her to near where her car was, and I said I had a great time, and would she like to meet up again? You don't do that. This is what happens. You don't read the book and you fuck up. Because now you're basically trying to make a second date at the end of your first, and she's already kind of pulling the ripcord and the parachute and getting out of here. She said she did. I mean, what else is she going to say? No, I don't want to go out with you again. No woman's going to give you an honest answer to a question like that. She's going to say, yeah, sure, call me, I'd love to. And said yes to meeting up again, to which we kissed on the cheek. Always go for the lips. But if you went for the lips and she gave you the cheek, it means, if she gave you the cheek like that, and plus she's talking about she's got things to do with her friends, I'd say she's pretty, and she didn't ask you any personal questions. Those are like 3 strikes there. Three red flags that she's probably not that into you. And I said, when would she like to go out again, to give me a call? That's not the way to go about it, dude. Wrong. On no account am I going to contact her before that. My question is, what would be your assessment of this? It doesn't sound like she's that into you. But what I would do is I would wait a week and call her and say, hey, it's Bob. I'd love to see you when you're free to get together. Do women who don't like a guy talk a lot like that? Well, when they don't like a guy, they don't ask you personal questions, and they give you the cheek when you go to kiss them. But if you went and kissed her on the cheek like a friend would, you're friend zoning yourself by that behavior. And this is why it's so important to read the book, because you don't know the fundamentals. He says, is it possible that the excuse to meet with friends soon after simply that, a made-up excuse? Probably. But like I said, wait a week and then call her to ask her out for a second date. That's why you never ask a girl out, because it makes you look desperate, and like you're afraid that if you don't make a date right then and there on the spot, that you won't be able to get her on the phone again to make a second date. This is typical nice guy behavior. It's a bad way to go. And when you're on borderline, got a chance with a girl, borderline, she's not really that into you, and you do this, if on a scale of 1 to 10 you're like a 5 in her eyes and you do what you did, you just blew it. But when you don't ask, and then she doesn't hear from you for 4 or 5 days, so you go out on a Wednesday and then you call her the following Monday, that's enough to put her over the edge to where, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go out there. I'll give him a chance. I don't really mind if she does or doesn't respond down the track, but I have a feeling that she won't. She's 34, a reasonable amount younger, but seems to have some common ground in her interest with me. Any thoughts? Well, like I said, wait a week, call her to see if you can make a second date with her, and if you don't get her on the phone again, if she never agrees, or if she doesn't call you back, then you know that she's not that into you. All right, let's get into the 4th and final email. This is actually a question about a guy who was dating a girl, and then she basically blew him off and got serious with some other dude, and he ran into her again. He says, hey coach, what should a guy do when a woman has rejected him but then comes to him for advice? A woman I dated basically stopped me, and as she stopped dating me, and because she was dating a couple of guys and she chose someone else. We bumped into each other a year later, and I still fancied her and would still like to try with her. I know she's still in a relationship. Well, she's not available. Next. Instead of avoiding her and being moody, I went up to her to say hello. She had seen me and recognized me prior, and she said she had seen me. She seemed happy to see me. Like in these cases, I would wave if you make eye contact and wave her over. Like, if you wave to her and then you're like this, let her come over to you instead of going up to her. That's pursuing behavior. And if she blew you off for another guy, I'd just act like you didn't see her, but unless obviously you make eye contact, wave her on over. This way, if she has any particular interest, or if she's single again, she comes over to you, and you're like, hey. It's always better if a woman's chasing you. She seemed happy to see me, and I just kept the conversation simple. After a brief catch-up, she said it was really good to see me, and I should email her. Well, she was the one that ended the conversation. You should pay attention to that. And I said I would and left. I wouldn't. She blew you off for another guy. You're a catch. She's like, you blew me off for another guy? Well, the only way I'm going to give you another chance is if you reach out to me. I had a situation like that I wrote about in my book, and I specifically detailed that. So if you haven't read the book yet, go and read the book, because I give specific instructions of what to do in that situation. She doesn't know if I have other details or not, or she doesn't know if I have her details or not, email, phone number, etc. During our brief catch-up, she neglected to mention her boyfriend. My friend said that she was just being polite as she works in the entertainment industry, and she probably says things like contact me on automatic to people that she meets or she knows. He says, I don't know if she was being polite or if she meant it. I wouldn't call her. If she really wanted to get in touch with you, she'd get in touch with you. He says, I know she's looking for some legal advice, and I know quite a bit about the law. That's like a bride for sex. Lord, let me give you legal advice so I can maybe get in your pants again. From elsewhere, I've got the impression that she may want to ask for legal advice. Should I contact her? No, I would not. I do still like her, but she has a boyfriend, and she's not available. I wouldn't mess around with that. But invited me to contact her. In this situation, should I refuse to give her legal advice if she rejected me for a relationship and it may lead to friend zone? Well, if she gets in touch, you should assume that she wants to see you, and you should be. If she calls you up and it's like, "Hey, Bob, how are you?" Like, "Oh, hey, it's great to hear from you. What's happening?" He's like, "Oh, I just want to call and say hello." It's like, "Hey, well, it's great to hear from you. You know what? We should get together and meet up for a drink and catch up." If she doesn't mention the boyfriend, then assume she's not together with him, and then try to make a date with her. And if she goes, "Oh, well, I have a boyfriend," it's like, then just say, "Oh, all right, well, cool. Well, hey, if it doesn't work out with that guy, give me a call. I got to run. It was nice chatting with you. Keep in touch. Bye." And then that's it. Leave the conversation. Phone's for setting dates, period. If she's reaching out to you, then what you're communicating by answering that way is that you ain't interested in the gay male girlfriend trap. You're not interested in giving her legal advice. Not that you need to tell her that, but you get right to the point. You're direct and you get to the point. If she calls you, you assume she wants to see you. You try to make a date to get together for drinks. And if she doesn't want to do it, or she throws the boyfriend in your face, then just say, "Hey, I'm real busy. It was nice hearing from you. If it doesn't work out with that guy, give me a call because I would love to see you." Because you're communicating to her, I'm interested in a romantic sense with you. I'm not interested in the friendship vibe. But if you were to say, "Oh yeah, let's get together and I'll give you legal advice," that's acting like the gay male girlfriend, and you're never going to get anywhere with that. That would be a bad way to go. So if you'd like to get my help personally, you have a question, a challenge, or a situation you need help with, maybe you need to figure out a new career, your career has become stagnant and dull or boring, or maybe you want to get in shape because it is the new year, you want to take better care of your body, or you want to figure out what your purpose is in life, or your business is having problems and you want to figure out how to turn things around, go to my website, click the products tab, which will be at the top of your screen, and you can book phone, Skype, or email coaching, whichever option works for you. And I will talk to you soon.